What are the paradigmatic patterns that fourth turnings take? And in that book, I think I stressed three challenging processes we're going to go through, right? One is the complete collapse of trust in notions of collective security, international law, and all the rest of it, right? That's going to be the outbreak of great power war. We've seen that repeatedly in fourth turnings around the world. The other is the breakdown of trust internally, right? And the prospect of political collapse and civil war. So I discussed that. And we certainly see both of those today. And the other, which has been an aspect of previous fourth turnings, is the collapse of trust in market value, right? The idea of a financial crash.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, JLW, and thank you all so much for joining me. Today, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We're going to do something that I've been wanting to do for quite a bit of time with several books, Empire of AI, the Kamala Harris book, and the one that kind of started it all that I never got around to, The Fourth Turning is Here, a book that I'd heard about from multiple podcasts, one that sounded interesting. It posits a theory as to why we're kind of seeing this unrest in America. And this is a dangerous time because this book, as we'll soon see, suggests that this period of time usually culminates in a great challenge.
We're in a fourth turning, and we've had another one. It's basically 2016 through 2024. It's a realignment of the two parties. Every time we see a realignment, and this most recent realignment has been the movement of, college-educated Democrats, I should say, college-educated toward the Democratic Party and non-college-educated working class toward the Republican Party. This is a huge shift in how the two parties are behaving, and obviously the gathering of these two parties into mega parties, tribes really, with completely mutually exclusive views of America's future. They differ on everything, attitudes toward authority, toward family, toward nation, toward tradition, whatever it is, they differ, right? And so this raises the prospect of internal problems. I think America is as polarized as it's ever been in its history, with the possible and ominous exception of the 1850s.
Now, clearly, I'm not going to read it page by page because that would bring a host of issues, not just time constraint wise, but also legally. But things that pop out that I think are interesting, I do want to share with you all, and I want to discuss it with you all because that is what this whole channel has basically become. Me sharing my thoughts on all kinds of world issues and you all participating, at least some of you all participating in the comment sections below. And as we saw with one of our last videos here, sometimes hopping on the pod and sharing your thoughts live so we can have a good, honest, thoughtful discussion. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. We're going to jump in now to The Fourth Turning is Here. Pollsters are struggling to catch up with the depth of Americans' dismay across the political spectrum. 79% of voters agree that America is falling apart. 76% worry about losing American democracy. 62% say the country is in a crisis. Only 25% disagree. Measures of national happiness and national pride, quote, very proud to be an American, have fallen to record lows. On page 3, we get, quote, how dumb can a nation get and still survive? Ask one national newspaper headline. Yet another headline directs readers in a more instructive direction. How to tell when your country is past the point of no return. Incompetent governance, ebbing public trust, and declining public compliance all feed on one another in a vicious circle. One symptom is the rise of free-floating anger in public venues. Airlines, restaurants, hospitals, and police report an epidemic of unruliness. Road rage traffic deaths are up, as are random mass shootings. Over the last 2 decades, Gallup's negative experience or sadness index for Americans has been rising. So has the share of popular song lyrics that include synonyms for hate rather than love. And so, for that matter, has the share of all newspaper headlines denoting fear, disgust, and especially anger. Older generations have for decades exulted in their unconstrained personal growth and in a government that doesn't ask much of them. They are very attached to quote unquote democracy, a word which to them denotes an obstacle-prone vetoocracy. Everything gets discussed, but nothing much happens. Gridlock, lobbies, regulatory review, and lawsuits ensure that comprehensive policy change always gets vetoed. The old, who benefit most from stasis, thereby keep what they have. A small but rapidly rising share of the young, about a quarter, twice as large as the share of the old, say democracy is a bad or very bad way to run the country. Most of these would prefer military rule. So you can see how this book, and I've left so much out, describes a country that is polarized and yet dynamically shifting in response to fear. Fear from a generation that is coming up that sees no hope on the horizon of things changing for their better. The book mentions that most millennials and those that are coming after do not earn what their parents earned at the same age, 30, 32, 40. We have been conditioned to search for stability. We've grown up in a world where you had the stock market crash, you've had the pandemic, you've had events that were so jarring for a majority of people, but outside of that, you've also had the response to those events be enriching and solidifying the positions of the few that remain at the top, and crumbs, and I do mean crumbs, trickling down to everybody else, so much so that people don't believe that the current way of doing things is going to affect change, is going to lead to a better life for them. So it's to me, it's interesting to hear this author, Neil Howe, suggest that millennials would much more prefer a military rule than our current system, which is something I don't particularly agree with as a millennial. I don't think younger people are looking for an authoritarian type figure to come in and basically rule through force. I don't necessarily understand anybody who would want to go, well, it can't be any worse than the pseudo democracy we have now. I would much rather take a illusion of freedom than a erasure of freedom, of true suppression through military forces. But I do, however, see the sentiment rapidly growing that people are fed up with capitalism. People are fed up with quote unquote democracy in its current capitalistic form, and they are in search of a change that is closer towards socialism, that is closer towards getting everybody on a playing field. And look, I've said it time and time again, I don't believe communism or socialism is the answer. We have seen that every time it is implemented, it is flawed, and it does not end well for the majority of people.
Within the actual communist countries right now, you literally have people going swimming with sharks to escape them. You don't see that happening in capitalist countries, period. One, because you don't have to. We just let people leave when they want to. So that's a big part of it. But two, it's because people know what's better for them, and they are getting out of communist countries in droves when they can. The 2 out of the 5 top countries that are trying to immigrate here right now are Cuba and Venezuela. People are starving under these systems. And so if you're a pragmatic person, you have to look at communism's track record, where it has killed millions of people. It is the leading cause of ideological death in the 20th century. And at some point, you have to acknowledge that I care about people, I want what's best for them, but this isn't doing it. This isn't working.
Critics are, I should say, pro-communist, pro-socialist, say that that's because it has been a doctrine, a belief, a system that has not been properly implemented as of yet. The true utopia that people desire in making everybody equal has yet to be designed and used by a government in a way that would achieve its stated purpose. It's always at some point been kind of commandeered by man and used in a way to self-benefit, because to me that would suggest man is flawed, and the greed of us comes out whenever we get the reins of, oh, I have the power to disperse wealth amongst everybody equally. Globally, America has grown more alarmed about its enemies, less generous towards its friends, more wary of everybody. The global financial crisis in 2008 was the pivot point. Until then, quote-unquote globalization seemed inexorable, and global trade expanded as a share of global production almost every year. Since then, global trade has been shrinking, trade barriers have proliferated, and onshoring has replaced offshoring. Until 2008, the number of democracies around the world was still expanding. Since then, the number of autocracies has been expanding. 4 of these, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, are gathering into a nuclear-armed and explicitly anti-Western axis. 1, Russia, recently launched the first major European land invasion since World War II. Now, I think this book was published around 2021, 2022, so everything post that is not included in this, so we don't have word about what's currently, obviously occurring in Iran and Gaza and, what Israel has been up to. But it is interesting to see these 4 countries brought up, because this is 4 countries that for the majority of our lives, especially as millennials and younger, we've been told these are our enemies. These are people that we're supposed to hate. These are people who do not have our best interest in mind. These are people who want to see the collapse of democracy. The interesting thing is, if you were to go out and talk to younger individuals, their mindset has changed drastically from when we were kids, in that they're now more open to the idea that we have not been told the full truth, that we have been propagandized, just like we're told Russians are propagandized by Putin's government into believing that America is always in the right. To see on our televisions, again, Trump go into another country and kidnap a president to stand trial for crimes here, shattered, I'm assuming, a multitude of people's illusion about what America really stands for. To see us not condemn what is occurring in Gaza, to be one of the few countries to align itself with Israel and say that this genocide is not really a genocide, shattered the illusion of what America stands for. To see America, Israel, and I think one other place, I can't remember what the other place was, come out and be the only 3 nations in the world to say that slavery wasn't the greatest, inhumanity towards a group of people, shattered the illusion of what America really stands for. But on top of that, we're also wising up to the fact that these countries that are anti-America, anti-West, to see the spin and the lie and the hypocrisy of, we started an attack for no reason against a sovereign nation, and now we're punishing everybody because that nation is defending itself or not cowing to our demands, makes people go, well, maybe there's a reason why these countries don't like us. Maybe there is some truth to this, anti quote unquote imperialism. Everything is at a boiling point of things are too damn expensive. People are dying for lack of good access to healthcare. The people that we are electing to represent us are basically putting up a giant middle finger to us and getting in office and saying, I know what I said I was going to do. That was a lie. Individuals are blatantly corrupt all up and down the administration, trading in your faces, pocketing millions of taxpayers' dollars and not hiding it whatsoever. People of the justice system are showing the highest Supreme Court. I mean, the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, is showing how corrupt it is, that it can be swayed by lobbyists. It can be swayed by politics when this is supposed to be an impartial, the most impartial body. That's being exposed. And the 2-tier justice system, to see a person like Bondi basically say, I'm not going to this congressional testimony. I'm not appearing when the body of our representatives is demanding you come and answer for lying to the American people, saying that there was no pedophilic network, there was no co-conspirators with Epstein, when we saw in the files very clearly that there was. You need to come and answer for that. And she says, F that, I'm not doing that. The 2-tier justice system of the rich and the powerful being able to skirt laws that me and you would never be able to do. We are being exposed as weak, very angry, very upset, and ready to be pushed in the right direction. In any of those countries that was just named in the book, Iran, China, Russia, could take advantage of that. On page 6, we get something that I feel like a lot of you all are going to be able to relate to. I know it's a paragraph that I relate to. And at this point, we're talking about the decline of so many things in America and the increase of individualism and identity kind of politics. And it says, as for America's civic life, this is where the old republic has disintegrated beyond recognition. Our politics are now monopolized by 2 political parties that represent not just contrasting policies, but mutually exclusive world views. These are mega parties, to use political scientist Liliana Mason's powerful term, which attract supporters first and foremost through their emotional brand identities and only secondarily through their positions on issues. Pundits aptly refer to them by simple colors, blue and red, to call attention to the visceral group loyalties they evoke. Each faction espouses different values, adopts different lifestyles, buys different brands, and, in a growing trend, reside in different communities. Electoral choices are becoming ever more lopsided, one way or the other, by state or county. Elected leaders from the two parties hardly talk to each other, much less socialize or discuss ideas. At this point, there is really nothing left to talk about. I don't think I need to say much to reiterate why that paragraph really stood out to me, but I'm going to say something anyway, because this is what we do. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment sections below. I think what is so frustrating about this paragraph is that it rings so true, in that Democrats and Republicans are these two extremes that no longer represent what the majority feel. I think you talk to the average citizen and they can find, average common sense citizen, and they can find points from both sides that they agree with. However, what we've gotten to is, because the sides make it seem like you can't live with policies from the other, they've now made it seem like once you choose one, you must hate everybody on the other side. And what's disheartening too is, I said the average common citizen, aligns more towards the middle and can see both sides. But there's also that movement, right? Especially with this current administration and its zealots who refuse to see or call out hypocrisy, who are so loyal to brand, right? To the marketing of this administration, that you could literally light them on fire and the president could tell them, you're fine, don't stop, drop, and roll, don't put water on it, it is okay, it's actually freezing outside, and they'll go and buy a coat. Because the identity politics is overtaking not even common sense. It is overtaking the ability to have honest conversation. If you do not align with red or blue, or in this case, this far red movement currently in power, then I don't want to hear what you're saying. And that's what happens when you have two parties. You eventually get boiled down to two groups going, I can't live the life I want to live as long as you all survive, and vice versa, which led to me asking a question of my father, which was, could you foresee a world where at some point America, very similar to Europe, stops becoming a place of states and starts becoming a place of countries? After conducting a comprehensive analysis of global survey data, the Cambridge University Center for the Future of Democracy recently concluded, we find that across the globe, younger generations have become steadily more dissatisfied with democracy, not only in absolute terms, but also relative to older cohorts at comparable stages of life. Affluent nations, especially Anglophone affluent nations, appear to be at the forefront of this generational trend. Americans certainly stand out in one respect. Perhaps because they once expected better, Americans have grown grindingly pessimistic about the prospects for their old republic on its current course. Yet, as Americans witness the old civic order collapse, they are moving beyond pessimism. They are coming to two inescapable conclusions. First, in order to survive and recover, the country must construct a new civic order powerful enough to replace what is now gone. And second, the new order must be imposed by, quote, our side, which would rescue the country from its current paralysis, rather than by, quote, the other side, which would plunge the country into inescapable ruin. You want to solve half of the problems we have, just remove money from politics. Make politics as unfruitful as being a damn teacher in this country, and I feel like 75 to 99% of the problems we currently face would disappear. We're told that lawyers are the most hated people, or at least the most hated job in our country. Politicians should be the most hated job in the world because they've made it about self, not about people. And that is, I think, the biggest issue our country is facing. Remove all of them. Take money, lobbying, all that shit out of our politics, and we would be in a much better place. Let me know your all's thoughts on what we read so far. Let me know your all's thoughts on The Fourth Turning. If you've read it, if you're going to read it, then I'll see you all in the next one. I'm your host, JLW.